Today, I welcome back Shinoo Mapleton, the Lotus Guru from episode 23. It's been almost 6 years to the day since that episode, which is so hard to believe. We've both moved locations, our brands have shifted and grown, and Shinoo shares how his company InoKinetic is evolving still with the addition of Porsche maintenance. Shinoo is an incredibly fun person to talk to. Not only is his enthusiasm infectious, but I always seem to learn something from him, and I never know what it's going to be. Per usual, we left even more on the table, so I feel like we'll just have to bring him back sooner than later. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast. Welcome back to the show. Obviously, it's been years at this point.
I had to go back and look at it was like episode 23.
Yeah. So that would have been easily 2020, right?
It was 2020.
So we're approaching 6 years. You've moved. I've moved. But you moved for a different reason that I moved because I work from home. So I moved for
Right.
personal reasons. You
Nice.
moved for professional reasons. So
Yeah.
um, tell me a little bit about why that happened and how this space is a little different from the previous.
So we bought our own building. So
It's a
I
good
think
reason.
previously when we talked before, I had some business partners, and we split up actually later that spring. They kept restoration, and I kept the Lotus and sports car business. And so then we split up, and frankly, last year we found a good building that suited, frankly, both of my companies, and we bought it. And so we moved in, and it's been wonderful. It's probably one of the best business decisions that I've ever made. So I'm happy with that.
Why do you say that? Like, I mean, I have a feeling I know why, but why do you think it's the best decision?
When you have your own building, you can do what you want with it, right? And you've been here and you've seen, like, when you put in lifts, when you put in an alignment rack, these are big expenses that a business like mine will have. And it's nice knowing that I don't have to move them again, right?
Sure.
I've incurred that expense once, and it's going to be there for as long as I choose to have this business in this location, right?
Yeah.
Which for me now is for the foreseeable future, because it's a great spot. It's the right size. It's really working out really, really well. So I'm super, super happy about the whole thing.
So when you buy a building like the one you're in, which is basically just a big box, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but you have the front offices there, you've got the workshop out back. Did you have to build out any of those walls with drywall, or was that already there?
So this was basically there. We made a few little tweaks. We certainly had to, like, we tore up all the carpets, we refinished the floors. It's all concrete, but we had it polished.
Yeah.
I've got this creative agency that I also own that's in the suite next door. And we do all sorts of, marketing, but we do a lot of signage and vehicle and building wraps.
Hmm.
So we wrapped all the walls with cool graphics, Draken over here, my art cartoon here, which I keep at Spring Mountain, so we could do these big, huge graphics that are really pretty cool. So we did that, but yeah, we basically, our front offices, are for our kind of customer service operations, R&D, kitting. And then in the back, which is most of the shop,
Hmm.
it's for service, and then also for carrying all the inventory of various parts that we've developed over the years.
Did you learn anything from your previous setup to moving into your current setup as far as like organization goes? Because I mean, you've got like parts back there that you guys ship.
Yeah.
You're big in the Lotus community, as we spoke before, and you ship these parts. Like, was it pretty much the same, and you just literally just moved it over in a similar fashion, or did you reorganize, or like what did you learn?
No, my wife is a professional organizer now. Um, I mean, literally, she started that 5 years ago, and she's just thriving, doing really well. So she's always been the person that's been in charge of our operations and organizing things for us. So we've always had a very good level of organization when it comes to all the parts out in the warehouse.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I mean, it was great because we shut down from one location. 4 days later, we were fully operational. In other words, we were shipping parts. The guys were turning wrenches on cars. We had lifts, like it was like a 4 day shutdown, which, for a small business like ours is
That's
critical, right?
incredible.
Cash flow is
Yeah.
everything. And that was because, we basically planned the work and then worked the plan, right? And Stacy did such a wonderful job in frankly organizing and getting all the details kind of worked out that we were literally within 4 days able to move from one location to this one and be fully operational. And cool thing is it was actually for both businesses that way. Though she wasn't as involved with that, me and my guys next door, we kind of, followed kind of the same template that she came up with for, InoKinetic to make brand XTR work, as be as efficient with our moves. So it was pretty cool.
Oh wow. So are you being serious? Like she is a professional organizer? Like
She
as a
is.
wait,
Yeah.
so what does she typically organize for others?
Mostly, private individuals, but she does commercial work too. Okay, so people's offices, people's kitchens, their
Wow.
pantries, their garages. So yeah, she loves it, man. That woman is like genetically predisposed to organizing things. And I laugh about this and I think about it. I'm like, we've been married for over 30 years. I've never had to decide where the hell the teaspoons go in the kitchen ever. It's like she figures, and that was just something she just naturally did. And I love things that are organized. I mean, you've been to my shop, you know
Yeah.
how tidy everything is, right? So I
Yeah.
love it that way, and so that's been a huge benefit for me, being married to her, that I've never had to sweat those things.
Well, how often does she have to go back behind you? Because, much like a 4-year-old, you got to put the toys
Yeah,
back where
no.
you found them. So,
No, I'm pretty good. Once it's in
okay.
place, yeah, man. I mean, if I'm honest, I do on occasion have her, roll in here and help me with a few things, paperwork related, just refiling, reorganizing things. I'm trying to move away from paper and be
Sure.
strictly, a digital, but I came up in a world of paper, and I still struggle with, getting away from paper and yeah, like I mean, even my office here, getting California Closets to come in and do all the organization, get me cabinets and files, and just have, like, why do I need all these file cabinets, But
Right.
I kind of, there's a sense of security I have of having some paperwork from like 20 years ago. I don't know what the hell I need to really keep it for, but is it nostalgia? Is it kind of just a little bit of that makes me kind of keep that stuff? But
I think you used the word already. It's called security. And you know what? Technology fails, paper doesn't fail, right? So,
exactly,
and
exactly.
look, I had to print some photographs this morning, and my printer kept telling me my printer didn't have paper. And I was like, damn it, I've loaded it 17 times. I've
Exactly.
I've shut the printer down 3 times. I've rebooted the printer 3 times. I can't stand technology. I hate it. I absolutely despise technology because it rarely works.
It's funny. There was a song that came out, I guess late 80s, early 90s by this guy Adamski, and it was called I Love Technology. And it's electronica. And
Of course.
and it's definitely, I have a love and hate relationship as well with it. But I'm wearing this scarf for a reason because I know you're an F1 fan. I'm
Okay.
actually going to take the scarf off because it's starting to warm up in the office, but
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you can see what's written on the back here.
Is it Lando Norris?
Yes. So I got some sort of email, and actually I was hiding what I'm wearing underneath
Yeah, the
here,
Willies. I noticed. I noticed.
which I love this jacket, man. And since when that first pod that we recorded,
Hmm.
you were really getting going, and it's been so fun for me to see how you've grown Standard Age and all these cool products that
Well, thanks,
you
man.
have come up with. I mean, that Lando Norris thing, I got an email and it said, oh, Lando Norris has got this amazing website. And I'm always interested to see what's fresh out there and what's going on. So I just clicked on it. And it was like probably a couple, 3 weeks before he sealed the championship.
Hmm.
So I was just clicking around on his site. He's got a bunch of gear, a bunch of clothes, and blah blah blah. And I saw the scarf, and I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool. It was like $50 or whatever it was. And I'm like, you know what? I'm betting he's winning. That he's going to win the championship. So I'm going to get this $50 scarf now because it'll be gone after he wins, right?
Oh,
So
sure.
I just ordered it, thinking, we'll see if he makes it. Sure enough, he did win, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. I'm glad he did win. Um, I know you talk quite a bit of F1 on some of your pods, and
Yeah,
I'm a big F1 fan, have been for decades.
sure.
And so I don't follow it. I don't watch every race. I read about every race afterwards.
Yeah.
But if I can catch him, I certainly will. And the last race, I watched the last half of it.
Oh man, it
And
was exciting.
live, as it was happening. And man, that was so close. Look, I think Verstappen is still the class, leader. He is the best driver on the grid. Um,
I mean, I think he might be one of the best drivers in the world. I mean, have you seen what he's done with GT3?
yeah, I don't, I haven't paid that close of attention to that. Certainly he rolls in there and he shows them why he's an F1 champion. I do.
I just love that he went to Nürburgring in a Ferrari.
Yeah. Was it a Ferrari? Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it was the GT class of a 296 Ferrari. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Oftentimes that's those kind of like, gentleman racers that he's competing with, right? And
Yeah,
rich dudes, and they'll hire a pro, to be on their team, right? That's a type
yeah,
of, driving. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fun to see some of these kind of retired F1 guys, whether it's Jenson Button or whoever,
yeah.
getting out at Le Mans and racing in endurance and doing that type of racing as well.
Yep.
Because these guys are pretty exceptional. I think Juan Pablo Montoya. I think he went out and did some stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I always thought I think Jacques Villeneuve may have at one point too, but
Yeah.
anyways, it's once you're racing at that highest level, maybe it's a bit difficult to drop to a lower level. I can only imagine, but I'm sure as well that since those guys are such racers, it's in their blood, and they just want to compete and be out there having fun. And I mean, I'm still holding out hope that Lewis can take one more championship, but man, it's not looking good. Right? I
Yeah,
don't.
no, it isn't. And also like the dropping down in levels, I don't know, it sort of evokes this sort of emotion in me. It's like having a really nice sports car at home and then going on vacation and getting in like a sports car rental that you could just thrash, right? Like I bet there's some level of that in Max's brain where he's like, well, this isn't an F1 car, so I'm just gonna drive it like I stole it. And like and turns out he's like setting lap records or something, like it's just like crazy.
Well, it's funny you say that because I think professional drivers, they drive everything like that way. They
Yeah.
have only one mode that is full on, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so they get in, and that's the difference between a pro, right? And in a similar vein, you saw GM went to the Nurburgring this last summer, right, with their ZR1 and the ZR1X and the Z06, and they went and set these lap records and
Mhm.
these times with their internal ride and handling engineers.
Mhm.
Right, everybody else hires pro drivers, race car guys to actually go.
Mm.
GM, it was like this flex. They said, "Hey, man, we are so good that and so confident that we're going to use our own internal drivers who are more reserved." Okay, these guys aren't as frankly flat out crazy as race car drivers fully are. Like pro drivers, man, they're on that just that slight next little level of crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like GM said, "Hey, look, we're going to set these what we know will be fast times with our internal team to show you how good we actually are,
Mhm.
and then they'll leave that in reserve." So let's just say if Ford and Multimatic go back with a Mustang GTD and beat the time, then GM will go get a pro driver, put him in the car, and then spank the GTD. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fun watching racing. Yeah, I've always admired it. And since I drive on track, with my Lotus, at Spring Mountain,
Yeah.
I can kind of dream of that, right? I'd like to be one of these guys, but when you know your talent isn't quite there, then you just got to go and have fun, right? And
Yeah, no, no. And
it's
it's
just time.
cheaper, right? Like if you
Yeah.
shunt it, it's mayhem financially as well. But
Oh
one
my,
thing about that scarf with Lando, I've not been to his website. I'll definitely check it out because
it's
I'm
a cool
kind of
site. Yeah.
excited to see his site. But the colors blue and white struck me. That's a lot more like a Scottish flag type of colorway. So
It is. It
he's
certainly
English,
is.
right? So like I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised to see that colorway. What do you know anything behind the blue and white, or is it's just a
I
scarf?
don't, it caught my attention. I like the checkered flag. I like the colors, I like blue. And so I thought, $50, I'm going to buy it, and
Yeah,
it'll be fun. Yeah, no, I don't know what the reason is behind that. Whether,
yeah,
but I think the clothes and things that were on it, lots of hoodies and, typical kind of clothes that 20 somethings are wearing. Right.
yeah,
But there were a lot of like neon and I think brighter colors and stuff like that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was fun. It was cool to see, um, how they're stepping into a space and the money that they're spending to create an interesting web, a beautiful, frankly, fun and fresh website.
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
always kind of good to kind of see that, right? Otherwise, you end up feeling like an old geezer all the time without any new ideas, without some inspiration, right?
That's funny. Yeah, I need to check that website out for sure.
Yeah,
Um, something I'm curious about, you mentioned having partners before and you kind of went your separate ways.
right.
For those who have been in a position where they have partners, be it, I don't know if you had like 51%, they had 49, like we don't have to talk like specifics like that, but
Yeah, it
like,
was 50-50 in our case, but
okay, so
yeah.
what is it like when did you buy them out or did they just say like, look, it's yours, or like how did that all unfold?
Well, so they wanted to continue to invest in restoration. Restoration is a very difficult business to try to make money. Most people don't make money at it. Okay. It's
Interesting.
quite difficult. And what we were trying to do at the time is like every car was a different make or model, right? And there's all this learning that we had to do that you can't really charge the client for, right? So
Right.
ultimately, it was a very difficult proposition to make money with. But my partners, as a father and son, they had, the old man had so much money that he wanted to continue to invest in that. And he recognized that it cost Stacy and I, we'd have to, because it was a 50-50, partnership, we'd have to invest the same, right?
Right.
And we weren't in the same financial position that he was in. So he
Sure.
wanted to keep doing it. Honestly, he had a bunch of old cars and loved the idea of being able to keep them taken care of. And so what we did is we just split the assets. And then 50-50, boom, he kept 50%, we kept 50%, and off we went. We focused on the Lotuses and he focused on restoration. So yeah,
Very, very
it's
clean divorce.
yeah, it was. I mean, again, there's ultimately you got to look at it's business in the end.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing this in an attempt to make money, which is what he always said to me. And but in the end, he didn't. Since he had piles of money already saved, he didn't need to make money from
Additional.
every transaction or
Yeah.
every year, if you will. And so it was a different situation. And yeah, we had an amicable split that I think ultimately has gone on great for us because we've been able to grow the business from there and, get to a point with our own business. And, obviously, in these economically kind of turbulent times or unpredictable times, there's been challenges, and they're constantly hustling. I mean, man, I took 13 trips last year
Yeah.
and all but one were somewhat business related, right? But because I do what I like, I don't really think of it as work, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but I mean, I literally I went to Japan, I went to Mexico City, New York, Detroit 3 times, Portland, Kansas City, Oklahoma City. Where else did I go? I mean, man, there were so many trips, and it was great, But every one of those trips, had an element of getting out there and looking at meeting, either future suppliers or current suppliers or customers or organizing events that for example, one of the trips to Detroit, we went down to Marietta, Ohio, which is this great place for wonderful roads, and we did our first Hocking Hills Road Rally event.
Oh, cool.
And it was awesome. I mean, Detroit is doesn't have a turn to save your life, and so, but like 4 hours south into Ohio, some amazing roads, right, kind of near the top of Appalachia, and
Wow.
it's like when you're into driving, right, you want to find fun roads. We're spoiled out here in California, right? I mean, literally right at the top of I can drive a half a mile and I'm in some fun roads, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's but in there's parts of our country where that is absolutely not the case, right? And
So what month were you in Ohio? I would imagine it was like a May, June situation or
no, I think it was April actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
April or maybe it was May. It was April, May. Right, maybe in the cusp of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it was such a good trip. We had such a good time, and a whole bunch of people that had never been introduced to that part of the country from Detroit came and were just blown away and
Yeah.
yeah. So we're organizing another one this spring, right? And
Oh,
so
amazing.
yeah, it's so fun. I mean, then you ultimately like there it is. Like I'm in the auto business, right? We do all this fun stuff on sports cars, and then we get to go actually use the cars and have fun with them, right?
Yeah.
I'm certainly a driver first kind of guy. Like the pleasure I have is driving the cars and driving them fast if I can. And so an event like that is great because you can go out and really enjoy the car for what it was designed, to do.
Sure. I mean, you have connections in Michigan. I think we talked about U of M on our previous episode, but when you do something like that, do you fly into Detroit and borrow a car from one of your friends that you're connected with, or did you ship a
Yeah.
car? Or, okay, okay.
Yeah, so it just depends. Like I first started going there. A bunch of my fraternity brothers that are in Detroit, they started going and they had called me, and they said, "Hey, man, you got to join us." I'm like, "Well, fellas, I don't have a car." They're like, "Hey, call Raj." One of our brothers.
Oh yeah.
He was president of Ford North America at the time, and he still has a lineup of really bitchin' cars. He had
Got
just
he's
taken
got a couple in
delivery.
the garage, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I called him and he lent me his '06 Ford GT. Right. He was driving his new GT. And that was the first time I went down there and I'm driving this, 500 horsepower bitchin' car.
Amazing.
And we were hooning these cars. We were driving hard, not just cruising around. We were getting after it. But all these guys are all trained drivers. They're all good drivers. We're not like reckless, hooligans. We're out moving at a very fast clip, but we're not reckless, if you will.
Yeah.
Some people might think it's reckless, but we're professional drivers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of funny. I'm
The
sure if
course wasn't closed, but let's just say we were having a good time.
yeah.
This last time, well, a couple years ago, I actually sent our 111 RS out there
Hmm.
and drove that down. And that was, oh my God, what an epic trip that was, because I sent it to Detroit and then went to Marietta, and then I continued down through Appalachia to the Tail of the Dragon down in Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
We were sponsoring an event down there. There's this a company down there, this guy Josh Vandergriff, who organizes drives through that entire area, particularly the Tail of the Dragon, for different car clubs and different communities. And man, it was awesome. I mean, those
Does
roads,
does
wow.
he like block it off somehow when those events happen, or like how does
No,
he
no,
organize it? Because that
no.
I've heard that's obviously more. I think this road's come up a couple times on the show, but it's more of a motorcycle road. But I would imagine in a Lotus, it would probably be pretty similar. I bet it would be incredible.
So I would argue that it's not a great motorcycle road. The Tail
Really?
of the Dragon, yeah. So the Tail is just one small portion of the entire like weekend.
Okay.
He takes us on. He takes you on all these roads all throughout Tennessee,
I
in
see.
that region, I should say,
Sure.
and they're wonderful. And I would frankly suggest that the other roads are better than the Tail of the Dragon. The Tail of the Dragon is like an autocross. You just turn, 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 turn. It's just there's no let up. Okay, you are on. There's no time to breathe. You just get, it's just
Hmm.
man. It is so fast. It is so fun. Honestly, it's absolutely dangerous for motorcyclists because There
Huh.
are cars that frankly veer into the opposing lane, and if you're a motorcycle coming around, there's a car right there, you're done.
You're cooked.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been riding motorcycles for 35 years. I wouldn't ride on that road. I think it's a bad idea because you're just flirting with disaster. And look, there's a lot of motorcyclists that do ride there. There's a lot of cars, blah blah blah. But maybe because I'm older and let's just say somewhat wiser, um, there's some roads you want to avoid. And I personally think the Tail of the Dragon is not a great road to ride on a motorcycle. Because of the inherent risk, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, tell us about. I see the Lotus models behind you as well. Those are so cool looking. Is that like a burgundy car?
So this is actually a postcard.
Oh, it's a postcard. I thought it was like a mo well, it looked like it was in a plastic box,
I know,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
mini
No, I just
champs.
have it. I have it
Uh,
on display. It's just so we'll send out postcards to our clients. That particular postcard shows a race car we built and a street car.
oh, cool.
Because we do, and it shows actually one of the cars. There's actually one development that has happened since you and I last recorded a pod. We started building these what we call 111 RSs.
Hmm.
And a 111 RS is basically an Elise or an Exige that has all of our upgrades. So we'll take a worn out car and then blow it apart and then either refurbish or replace every significant component from the
Hmm.
engine, the gearbox, the brakes, the wheels, suspension, exhaust, shifter, radio, you name it, right? And so what
Wow.
we've just taken a car that was fundamentally good and enhanced it to make it a bit better.
Where does the 111 come from a nomenclature standpoint?
Yeah, the 111 is the internal code name that Lotus has for the platform.
Okay.
Just like 997,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. I
Porsche,
wasn't sure
it's
if
the
that was named
911.
after, because isn't the 111, isn't that what goes through Palm Springs? I thought it may have been like a,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. There is a road there, the 111 through Palm Springs. There
I
is.
didn't know if it was something like that. Like, so when I
Yeah.
launched Standard H and with shorts, actually, maybe I've brought this up. I think I probably have in the
Well, I
190
kind of remember
episodes.
the hat too that you were wearing. Wasn't that one of the early products?
Well, this was the first product, but the first like apparel I did that was like
Okay.
cut and sew,
Yeah.
was actually a pair of shorts, and I called them the 101 shorts, named after the 101 going through Encinitas.
Nice.
And who knows? Stranger things could happen. They may get rebooted, and rather than those made in Asia, I'll probably have them made at my manufacturer in LA.
Yeah.
And much in the same way that Porsche has the 997.1.2, these would be the 101.2
Nice.
shorts,
Nice.
probably. That's
Yeah.
that's another discussion for later and a different level of investment that I'm not sure I'm ready for. But we'll see. But I do want to talk about your business kind of stature with Lotus. I mean, you've become an authority in the space. Like people know you all over the country. Like, how is business currently? Because it's been fickle over the last, say, 12 months, I would say. And also, like, why and how do you feel like you've become the authority or an authority, I guess I should say.
After 20 years of being in this space, I mean,
Yeah.
we technically started in 2004, but I was working on it in 2003.
Okay.
After all these years and hundreds, if not certainly thousands of people I've talked to and interacted with,
Mm-hmm.
from owners of Lotus cars to suppliers of high end, components. My trip to Tokyo last year, I went to visit our one of our wheel suppliers who makes a forged wheel for us. In fact, that drawing behind me it's the
The
lightest
blueprint.
wheel that you
Wow.
can put on a Lotus.
Wow.
Elise or Exige. It's the best one in the world. And,
What
and
is it made
I'm
of?
just stating that as an engineer.
Sure.
But we've been so focused on those cars, and we're still, that's at our core where, I want to see the Elise and Exige on the roads and track 20, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. Okay.
Yeah.
I may not be here 40 years from now, but 20 years from now, for certainly, and because I think the fundamentals of that car are so good that, much like, are you familiar with the Caterhams?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's based on a Lotus Super 7, right?
Okay.
Lotus sold the IP to Caterham, and they've continued to produce a car for an additional 50 years. That to this day is still fundamentally a fun car to drive.
Well, those are mostly tracked. I don't think I've ever seen a Caterham on the street, right?
Oh yeah, no, I would actually argue it's the other way around. Most people that have Caterhams are driving them on the street.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I feel like
yeah,
that's such like a UK thing. Like I've never seen one here.
yeah. They're here. I mean, there's probably hundreds, not thousands,
Okay.
but again, it appeals to a very hardcore element.
Sure.
For people that want something that's one step safer than a motorcycle, right?
Right.
And
Like an
most of
aerial
us,
atom type of thing.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And the Atom was actually the design brief for the Atom was design a modern day Super 7 or Lotus Super 7 Caterham Super
Oh,
7.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean I think the Elise and Exige are like the Super 7 in that it has long legs. Okay, I think it's the modern day equivalent. It's
Hmm.
a little bit more practical. It's a little bit more comfortable. It's got a little bit more protection from the elements. It's certainly safer, but it still has a very raw driving experience, particularly compared to modern cars,
Hmm.
right? So I feel like it's the equivalent. So we want to continue to support those cars, and we always will because I just think that if you love driving like I do, and you get into that car and you drive it, it's like, wow, this is such a visceral, amazing experience, and you can't get it from modern cars. I'm sorry, I
Hmm.
love modern cars too, but this is a great tool for this particular job, which is getting out there and feeling everything, through every sense you have when you're driving the car, right? And so I think that there's always going to be people. It's a small market that are attracted to this type of car, that delivers that type of experience, right?
Sure.
So we want to be there supporting those cars. We invested in tooling to produce DOT safety glass, I mean street legal windshield for those cars. It was a
Hmm.
huge, it was a six-figure investment for us to get the tooling for the windshields on the car,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So we can make sure those cars continue. So yeah, this 111 RS whole project, we've done 8 of them now. That's been also part of it, is that we can give a new lease on life to an old tired Elise or Exige.
Sure.
And I mean, we can certainly do that to a new car and it'll be better. But where I'm particularly satisfied is when somebody brings me a car that's on its last legs and we can kind of revitalize it.
What is that? What is that sort of? Well, it's not even a restoration. It's more of an upgrade, as you say.
Yeah.
What does that typically cost? Minus the donor car, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, typically you bring the car and the check, and be willing to stroke a $60,000 check,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And
That's
you go from
actually a lot better
60
than I
to
thought.
100 grand.
Okay.
So it's not crazy money. You know what I'm saying? It really isn't. It's not singer money. It's not anything to those levels. I mean, and maybe that's a business mistake I'm making. I don't know. But let's just say for now we feel like, hey, as we're rolling this, we've done 8 cars. As it gathers some steam, it'll be a way for us to continue to show people that you can have this wonderful experience in a raw car without it beating you up completely. Without it being very plasticky feeling experience, and,
Yeah.
and so we're not trying to make it more luxurious. We're not trying to improve the amenities. That's not the key thing. We're trying to make it handle better, brake better, sound better, feel better. Those are the primary things in my head, anyways, that I want to make sure I improve first. I certainly want to make it look better, and we've done that too, I think.
Hmm.
Um, you know, the coming back to your earlier point about the business, and so we stay focused on that. Lotus has been a company that has been up and down, up and down, up and down, and a lot of down, frankly. And they're I think back in kind of in a down state.
Mm.
Even though this new car they'd introduced, the Amira, is such a good car. It's a really good sports car, and but again, they have to make these additional concessions towards comfort and safety and amenities that consumers are demanding and governments are also requiring, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that just makes cars bigger and heavier and less visceral, right? So for the Lotus purists out there, they're kind of they start getting a bit up in arms about things. But the
Yeah.
problem with the purist formula is going to deliver a very low amount of client interest or a number of customers, right? So if you don't expand, it's very difficult to keep your business viable. So much like that, we've looked around and said, hey, if we're going to support these, Elises, Exesias, Evoras, then we've got to look at other things. And so we've expanded our service department in particular right now towards Porsche
Okay.
and, 997 and older. Okay. 996, we bought a 996 last fall, and we've kicked off this project we're calling the 996 RR for road rally.
Okay.
As at Works reunion last summer up in Monterey and looking around, and there was a couple of safari builds,
Sure.
and one which was the Porsche official one,
Of course.
and it had a lot of interest. And there was only a couple, 3 cars that were built this way. And as I dug deeper, the safari builds are pretty cool, if you spend a lot of time off road.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to build a car that works on the road and on beat up roads, okay, which is a lot of what we have here in California, and people don't really consider that. And the safari builds that are out there are more off-road focused. So for example, the tire and wheel, that people put on them, they're the same on all 4 corners.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay?
As far as width and track and so, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that isn't going to work on the road for a rear biased car.
Right.
Okay. If a Porsche 911 was a 50-50 weight distribution car, then you can do what's called a square setup like that on the road. But it doesn't work, on the road. And I wanted the car to work on the road first. So 90% broken asphalt and maybe 10% groomed gravel, right?
Sure. Like a fire road or something.
Exactly. So this 996 RR, which is now, running, we've got some cosmetic work to do on it internally, and I should say inside and outside, but it's coming along really well.
The 996 interior is a big gripe for a lot of people, so I'm sure the interiors need some love.
It is, man. I've got some history, right, in that I had a 993 when the 996 was introduced.
Sure.
And I was certainly firmly in the purist camp of WTF, what's with those headlights,
Yeah, of course. Sure.
It was, look, I admired the GT1 race car, and I thought that was great, okay?
Yeah.
It was, I wasn't ready for it, and if I'm honest, okay, I have to eat some humble pie now and say, I actually don't mind the headlights as much.
Yeah, same.
I still prefer the oval round headlights. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
That's not an argument. Okay. And I think, as like the 997 Porsche, remedied the situation. They heard it loud and clear.
Yeah.
As a business guy, as an engineer, I know why they went with those headlights, for the 996, and I never knocked them for that. And I'm certainly not a guy who knocked them for moving to water cooled at all. Okay.
Right. Sure.
Because that was the right decision from a racing perspective. So, getting a 996 and choosing that car, it's kind of funny for me to think about back then when I was not really, I thought, oh my God, they lost their way. But
yeah,
it's actually an interesting car for us because, one, the market's beat the price down to the point where it's the best value on the market. I mean, if you want a 911 and you want a car that's actually fast, that is capable, that also has some comfort and amenities, this one's pretty good. And this whole IMS bearing thing that has beat the cost of the values of these things down, it's way overblown. Okay. Less than 5% of the cars actually suffer that damage.
Is that right? That low?
Yeah. It's way less than people realize. And so I think what's happened
and then the turbos didn't have the issue at all, right?
No, I think the Metzger engines had no such issues. So
I love a 996 turbo, frankly. Like I think it's a beautiful car. Yeah.
So I can't agree with you, but look.
What do you not like about the turbo?
So the 964 turbo was my favorite turbo.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a completely different looking car to me.
So the problem for me is just that that car, because I'm of that age where that was the car that
Right, sure.
has this brutal kind of aggression.
Mm.
And then with the 993, it looked like it got melted. And like, I love the 993 C2 is what I had. I love the styling of that car. And
Yeah.
the race car is awesome.
Yeah.
The RS kind of that, era. Um, I, I love those cars. But the turbo started getting soft looking, and they are making it aero, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
But the loss of the T tray wing, in the way it kind of started looking melted, I just started losing my love for the turbo cars.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Oh, I love a C4S. I don't know, like a 996 C4S in silver. I actually like most C4Ss in silver for some reason. I don't have a reason
yeah,
necessarily, I don't think. Well, although back then I think some of them were like a wider body than another, but um yeah, I don't know. And actually there's a guy who street parks a 996 C4S in silver like a mile from my house. And
sure,
every time I drive by it, I want to take a photo of it just because it
yeah,
looks great. But a 993 turbo, 993 C4S, silver, silver, silver. Justin Plotzik, who's been on this show, has a C2S in silver,
okay,
turbo
okay.
twist wheels. I mean, it's just such a, I don't know. Silver's boring to a lot of people, but for whatever reason, when you throw an S badge on the back and have a little wider hip or something, like it just works, man.
Well, silver was the German, Grand Prix color, right? Number one.
Yeah,
So
white,
it
silver.
resonates for
Yeah.
that racing reason.
Yeah.
But silver is also the color that designers paint their first cars in to check the body, okay? Because silver reflects light better. I used to work for a 3M company, and we used to make this film that they would lay on top of the clays that they would build of the full size clays of the cars, and
Turning
they
it
would
from
spray
brown
those
to
silver.
silver.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So silver is the color that almost, in design studios, that they'll first paint a car to
Yeah.
see how the body lines and everything look, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look, you get this. You're which, by the way, that photo that you have on your site, super cool, dude. I love it. Yeah.
Which photo?
I think it's of your 997, the black and white photo that you're selling on your website.
Oh, oh, right.
The print,
Sure. The actual like the photograph
the
for
photograph.
sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But again, because of the contours and the shape, right, you're able to play off of that. And it's so important, I think, anyways, visually, when things look good, right,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I read The Road Rat.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you get the latest?
Is that episode? Is that
I,
issue 22?
I don't know the number, but it's
I only have
celebrating.
21. 21's the
Okay,
latest one I have.
it's celebrating the cars from the 90s.
Oh yeah, I don't wait, do I have that one? I actually can't
It
remember,
just
but
came out.
I
It
know what
just
you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think I
that's
just
issue
got it this
22.
past week, but it's
Yeah.
great. It's a great issue, because and it's funny because they kind of say this was the last of the analog cars before things started moving towards digital,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No screens back then, and no, not much computer, intervention and that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
the 90s were certainly an era where I was fully engaged and capable of buying, and I owned a bunch of cool cars. That were that are being really talked about in that issue. And
Yeah.
and I'm talking about this for one reason, and that's because Chris Bangle, who was the head of design at BMW at the time,
Okay.
and I loved BMW. I mean, I'm less interested in BMW now because I don't see much that it gets my attention or interest.
They look like shit, Shinoo.
Man, I am not happy. I think last year I posted up, I'm like, for the first time in my life, I'm interested in more Cadillacs than
A
BMWs.
hundred
Like,
percent.
what
I'm
happened?
super stoked to see what they do in F1 too, but that again, tangent.
Yeah, we'll
Tangent.
see where they go with all that.
Yeah.
But Bangle is being somewhat celebrated a little bit in this issue, and I remember, you know, Chris Bangle, he's an American guy. I think he's from Wisconsin. um, he changed up the design language at BMW, and he was the head of design, and he did this pretty controversial design of the 7 Series BMW. I think it sucked then, and it still sucks now. It has not aged well for me.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
think some cars do age really well,
Was that
and
the when they went to the clamshell trunk?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just to me a very the lines were just disjointed. They didn't flow the way I think they can flow. And
Mm.
he was trying to break. He goes, look, BMW, our design language is what length of sausage do you want, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
everything is the same, just different
Yeah.
sizes, right?
357. Yep.
Yeah, but in my mind, still my favorite BMWs are from the pre-Bangle era. And so he definitely took a lot of heat. So to his credit, he took a lot of heat. But he's being celebrated by a lot of people after the fact nowadays, and being kind of put up there as this design great, which he did a Fiat that was kind of cool. That was pretty out there.
Okay.
But that little coupe, Fiat Coupe was the kind of car that could be more avant-garde.
Sure.
I just didn't think that a 7 Series BMW, which is more of a conservative, stately vehicle,
Sure.
should be on the cutting edge of design,
Yeah,
and
it's literally a touring car, you know.
it's a touring car and it's being bought by old geezers, you know what I'm saying? And so old geezers don't want avant-garde design, man. They want something that's more traditional, and
Yeah.
the traditional design can still be done well, in my opinion.
Sure.
So why, but anyways, it's easy to sit here, and cast dispersions on people that have to make big
30,
decisions.
yeah, 30 years later.
Right.
What was the competition of a 7 Series that you thought was better looking? Just as an example.
Well, the Audi certainly was. An A8, I think, was out at that time.
Chef's kiss, man. I
Yeah,
love
I
those.
mean,
Yeah.
just a beautiful, clean design, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that,
Still today, frankly. Like I
yeah,
would get an
yeah.
A8 over a 7 Series any day of the week. And just the user interface inside the car has just been better ever since the MMI came out versus was it iDrive or whatever they called it,
Hmm.
the little knob thing. Like I hated
Yeah.
that little knob thing. And
Did
then
you?
the
Yeah,
MMI used the similar rotational thing, but whatever.
yeah.
That's 20 years ago at this point. But
Right.
yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. So what to get back on track for InoKinetic,
Yeah.
how's the restoration, not restoration, excuse me, the maintenance, for Porsche's going? I when I was there, the 996RR was up on a lift. I think you were
Yeah.
servicing the IMS, but you had a blue 964 in there.
Yeah, yeah, actually, yeah. This friend of mine from Texas sent me his car and needed some work, so we did suspension, we did tires,
Sweet.
we actually dry ice cleaned the bottom undercarriage of the car.
Yep.
He had a leak coming from the engine, and it kind of made a bit of a mess. It's a car he's going to keep forever.
Yeah.
If you remember, it was very cool color combination.
Yeah. It was blue over like blue/gray, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah, the
sick.
interior was really cool. The dash upper doors were dark blue, and below is like that kind of light gray Palomino-esque color.
So good,
Beautiful
man.
color. Yeah, and the exterior color. In fact, I need to look up the name of it, but it just shifts from dark blue to purple. Such a beautiful
It's a
color.
very 90s looking blue. Like BMW, frankly, had a blue that was like the epitome of what you just described. It was like sort of purpley. My friend Raymond has, is it E28? I can't remember what his 5 Series is. Chassis. I think it's an E28. I don't know. But yeah, that like 90s BMW color did something very, very similar. And I love that
Yeah,
spec. I think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really,
yeah.
really great.
Well, I think we're about to pull the engine on the car. He had a few other issues like the brake lines and brakes, and the engine's leaking. He wants that sorted, so we're gonna yank the engine out of the thing, do a mild rebuild on them. On the 964s, a valve job is kind of recommended after 50,000 miles. His headlights. He hated the headlights because they're just so. I mean, they're 35-year-old headlights, right? And
Yeah.
so We upgraded the headlights. There's a company up in LA that makes these really cool 911 headlights that makes these LED lights that are the design is somewhat period correct.
Mm-hmm.
So we put those on the car. It's pretty amazing. You know, had
Cool.
his seats kind of rebuilt because they were kind of all floppy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Went and had a key cut by Forma Works. They make these beautiful keys and other cool
Yep.
stuff. You know, Daniel's doing really great work, making really cool stuff. Have you talked to him at all?
I haven't. I think you and I mentioned this in a previous conversation. You need to connect me with him because
Okay,
I'd love
I
to
will.
get him on my show.
Yeah, you need to.
Um,
He's doing
I
really cool
love his
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned suspension a minute ago.
Hmm.
I don't know how much automotive YouTube you watch, but I watch like Sam from Seen Through Glass and I watch Tom Exton from TGE. Tom just did a video on his 997.2 GT3 RS 3.8 about tractive suspension. Have you heard of this company?
I've heard of him, but I haven't looked into him.
Okay. So where I'm going with this is a lot of people do KNW. Is it KNW, right?
Yeah, KW.
Yeah,
Yeah.
KW. KNW. I think that was a like a
You're thinking of
cafeteria.
KNN.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
KNN. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
KNW was also a cafeteria that my grandmother used to take me
Oh,
to.
really? Oh, A and W.
Yeah, yeah.
A and
Well,
W.
there's A&W, the root beer, but
Right.
KNW was like a local, like a lot of blue hair in there, let's just
Oh,
say.
nice.
Anyway, so KW suspension, extremely popular for 911s, but it's stiff, I hear, right? It's very great performance, and if you're on the track, it's perfect. I hear it can be for someone like myself who likes to spiritedly drive, but I
Mhm.
still actually enjoy the OEM sort of what's the word I'm looking for?
Compliance or comfort,
Compliance.
maybe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, compliance
Yeah.
is the word. Um, because quite frankly, and I've said this before, my 997 is softer than my GTI to drive, like just
Sure.
because it's just more compliant, while also being probably a much better performance car, right?
I mean, look, it better be for triple the money, right? I
Right,
mean,
right, sure, sure. Yeah. And so, and 10 years older, but still. So my car's still on the OEM suspension. Now,
sure.
we all know suspension doesn't last forever, right?
OEM about 50,000 miles.
So I'm approaching that, right? But here's where I go. Like, do I replace it with the OEM suspension, which is now 20 years old in technology, or do I try to upgrade it for something with modern technology that may or may not give me the same ride feel and or better? I don't know. And
Yeah.
word has it on TGE is that tractive suspension still feels like OEM levels while also giving you modern technology and better performance. So, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, suspensions are kind of our bread and butter around here. You know, Lotuses are known for handling, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And they come from the factory with a pretty amazing handling. But just like anything else, every OEM has to hit a budget in any component that they spec into their car.
fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are trade offs, right? And road conditions are different all around the world, right? So ultimately, these OEM engineers have to come up with a compromise that is going to work for the vast majority of their customers, right? And they've got a budget that they have to stick to. That's why you rarely will find a adjustable suspension, you know, being sold or
OEM.
fitted to
Yeah,
an OEM car, right?
yeah, yeah.
Non-adjustable shock where the valving's been specified, spring rate, everything done. That's much cheaper to produce in mass.
Sure.
So in the aftermarket, you can find a solution that is better compliance, so better comfort, and delivers more track day performance.
Hmm.
Okay. So, like on our 111 RS builds, that's exactly what we're doing. Okay. Our car rides way better than stock, but it is way more capable on track or on any canyon.
And
So,
that's due to the adjustability.
due to the adjustability, right? And it's a $3,000 set of shocks. Okay. You know, for example, that is the single adjustables, you know, and that the price just keeps going up.
Right.
So what you want to do is you want to work with someone that understands what it takes to set up a suspension, has a relationship with a suspension company that, you know, can make adjustments if required.
Hmm.
Okay. So we work quite a bit with an English company called Nitron, and the owner is a friend of mine, and he set up his U.S. operation 5 miles up the road here, based on me being here and my recommendation and the network that we have in this area. So,
Wow.
you know, when you're serious about it, certainly just, let's have a conversation. Okay. Talk, you want to talk to people that have actually done it, who can help dial the car in, to your need, what you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
so that it can actually deliver the performance that you would like.
Yeah.
We fit Bilstein PSS 10s on this 964. It's a single adjustable shock, so we can make it stiffer, we can make it softer. He went with a +1 rim on his car, so he's got 18-inch rims. So that's right away diminishes ride quality.
Sure.
Okay, but he loves the stands and how it looks. Okay, so he's trading off ride comfort for, frankly, styling. Okay, and so those are all kind of trade-offs that you have to be aware of. And you want to work with somebody that understands these things and then can talk you through that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just want just like stock, then get a set of OEM shocks and have them put on the car. You're going to pay a lot for that, but whatever, it's done, and then it's like what the factory wanted,
Right.
But I think that's the easy solution, certainly the more expensive solution, but sometimes. But if you're willing and you want something more, to your point, more modern technology, well, then there are options out there. You just want to work with somebody, a shop, that knows and understands this, that can align the car, right? We spent 80 grand on this Hunter alignment rack so that we can set up cars properly, because the alignment is critical.
Right, sure.
Like our 996 actually turns in better than the 964. Right, the steering is better with the alignment that we put on the 996. The 964 alignment is very stock, very factory, okay? Because that particular client's not going to the racetrack, he's not driving it aggressively.
Right.
So we said, all right, we'll do an OEM, alignment. On our 996, it's a car we're setting up for driving hard, and so we wanted to go do it a bit more aggressively. Porsche 911s in particular have a very complex suspension, because of the design, of a rear engine car.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of compromises, right? To deliver the level of practicality that you get from a 911, there are performance compromises that Porsche have had to make. And one of those is creating a very complicated suspension, multi-link rear suspension that is quite complex.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I know the front end of these new GT3s are, a double wishbone, and that was like a major thing. So
yeah, because guess what? That simpler design is superior. Okay, right. All the Lotuses have a double, wishbone design. Because they're not trying to put in two little baby seats in the back and have the practicality of a trunk at the front. You see,
wait, so you're saying the double wishbone of the newer cars is a more simple design?
It is.
Oh, wow. I always think advancement, right? Like, so it's got to be more complicated, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so they're going backwards to go forwards.
Wow.
Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So oftentimes, this, look, your clothes are a perfect example. Is you keep editing. I can see, how you are doing this. That editing process is so difficult, right?
It is.
But
yes.
if you had to incorporate a locker loop and a cell phone pocket and a zipper or whatever, all of a sudden the requirements just start going up and up and up, right?
Yeah.
And so a Porsche 911 has a front trunk that's practical. It has 2 jump seats in the back that are practical. These are absolute compromises when it comes to performance. If they didn't need to do that, right, they could have a simpler system to deliver a similar level of performance.
Interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Yeah. To me, a 911 is engineering brilliance over physics. Okay. It's a testament to the brilliance of Porsche sticking to a formula and applying engineering to overcoming, physics and frankly, fundamental flaws, really. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as a compliment.
No, as a compliment. Sure. Yeah.
As an engineer, I see exactly what they've done, and I love it. And I applaud them, because look at the following, the 911 has as a result.
Yeah.
Right? is a fundamentally flawed architecture, period. Nobody, they look, 917, 918, Carrera GT, these are all mid-engine cars, okay? All their LMP cars, right? Even the new 911
Cayman.
cars are moving towards
Yeah.
mid-engine.
GT4. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just, but they stuck to the formula because they knew it was delivering these other attributes that people appreciated in the market,
Yeah.
right? And I think it was smart, you know, and it's worked well for them, right? So yeah, but to my point about your clothes, man, I have really been admiring what you're doing, and as a result, I own several of your pieces because I love it, man. I love what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Trying to make stuff in the States is so difficult. There's a
Yeah.
cost associated with it.
Yep. Totally. Yes, I do know.
You're a creator, man. You're just not like buying and selling somebody else's stuff, right?
Right.
Like I
Right.
relate to people like that because that's what I do. We create stuff. We see a problem and we want to solve it, but then to solve the problem and actually commercialize it, a lot of work, right?
Yeah. No,
It's,
it's very
it's amazing.
difficult. Yeah. And it's funny, like how often I come across people that are still learning that, like,
Mm-hmm.
this is like a soup to nuts thing. Like, this is not a bot blank t-shirt that I somehow found a way to dye. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
right,
it's
right. I
yeah,
mean,
they're
you can
like, wait,
certainly
oh, your
iterate with
fabric is
yeah,
also made in LA? Like, I didn't realize the fabric was made. Like, yes,
sure.
it's like soup to nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Took a long time. And you mentioned R&D earlier that you couldn't pass on to the customer, in a restoration. I,
yeah.
I mean, I can't really pass that on either, not
You
without
can.
these t-shirts being, double the price kind of thing.
Right.
So I've really got to get kicked in the pants on the front end so that I can hopefully make some cash on the back end and keep this thing afloat. But you're more than familiar with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, one of the things that as entrepreneurs that we often forget because the media tells us kind of otherwise that there are all these get rich, quick
oh yeah.
schemes.
Yeah.
That's not what works. Time is that one element that we often don't consider. It
Hmm.
takes a lot longer to build a brand that will be around for a longer period of time to build the loyalty, the trust of your clients.
Yeah.
Look, you're selling basics. You can buy these things from lots of different places,
Hmm.
right? But once people know who you are and what you stand for, I've heard you say this in previous pods, but you're focused, on the details and the quality and producing it here, and that there's that cost associated with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we're still under the same umbrella of basics, but the products couldn't be more different. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Like for you, like you're under the umbrella of cars.
Yep.
Well, a Lotus and a Draken and a Ariel Atom is a lot different than a 964, very different from a Range Rover. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah, no, and the difficulty, of course, is that we're dealing with a very niche market of people that really are attracted to these very tight niches,
yeah,
right? And as you know, like I mean, not enough people yet still really care about made in the US,
yeah,
but it's starting to come. But the truth of the matter is it's going to be, a tight niche of people who are willing to pay that extra, right?
yeah,
As long as the Gap or Walmart or Costco are out there where you
yeah,
can buy, a t-shirt, right? It's like just like, with cars, right? There are certainly other cars that can deliver lots of performance, but do they really deliver exactly what you're looking for? That little niche, kind of that feel, the thing that you're after, right? And yeah, no, I think
yeah.
that the
You're
number of people like,
dressing in the morning is driven by a philosophy, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of like it's you're getting dressed by philosophy, not by like, just a means to an end,
I actually, if I'm honest, okay, I kind of wear a uniform, what I'll call a uniform to the
Well,
office.
you're a man over the age of 30.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I like that because I don't have to think too much about it, right?
Yeah.
And there's some practicality to that. But when I go out with my wife or at a special event, it's fun. It's fun. And I think I kind of said to you, it's one of the things I like about these Willys jackets. You can dress them down, you can dress them up. It's kind of fun to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And your clothes have give you that because the quality, you can see that it's there. So taking it up level, it it works. You know,
Thanks, man.
it works.
I didn't realize this would be an ad, but I really appreciate the sentiment.
Well, it's more of a thank you, man, because I
Well,
like
no,
your
thank
stuff.
you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's reciprocated for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is a hopefully a symbiotic relationship.
Well, I think we've gotten to know each other over these last, 5, 6 years now, and I think there's that mutual admiration. And when you rocked into our that 996RR tech seminar wearing that green jacket, I'm like, that's the one he's been teasing, I think. And
Yeah.
and of course, I'm in the midst of all these customers and giving this presentation, so we didn't really get a chance to talk much about that until I saw you later.
Yeah.
And you brought it out and showed it to me, and I was like, oh wow, this is really nice. Yeah,
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Well,
yeah, you
Shinoo, we
snuck it
gotta
out
we
with
we
that.
gotta get you back on the show here.
Yeah.
When the 996RR is complete, and we can start showing people. I really appreciate all of the education and the sentiments that you've provided. Not just on this show, obviously. I mean, even just like behind the scenes and in your shop. And obviously, if anybody listening to this is in Southern California, Shanu does the occasional cars and coffee, tech talk, things like that at his shop, which is in Temecula,
Yeah.
Murrieta. It's Temecula, right? Technically.
Temecula.
Yeah,
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 we're
yeah.
in Temecula now. Yep.
So anybody who's, I don't know, Santa Barbara South, just make the trip because it's really fun and it's cool to see a lot of these cars up close. uh, you know, Lotus isn't something that's parked in every grocery store parking lot. So those are always super fun for me to see as somebody who enjoys like a fun, nimble automobile for sure. So
Yeah,
um,
they're drivers focused cars, and it's exciting for me now getting into Porsche too, because
yeah.
it's been a lifelong love of that brand, and for us to
And
now
you've
start
owned them,
seeing
right?
those.
Like this isn't
Yeah,
like just like a hey, you're hopping on a bandwagon. Like you said, your 993 was even like you had kids even
I
when
did.
when
I
the
did. That is
993
actually
was.
one reason why I chose the 911
Yeah.
over an NSX, over a Z3M Coupe. What else was looking at? RX-7 of that era. Yeah, I
Oh,
chose
that's
the
funny.
911
It's
because of the
cool
jump
that
seat.
oh man, I love hearing the what else was being considered. That's fascinating. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I was looking at a bunch of different cars, and but the 911 was, in the end was going to win. I thought, mostly because I've been loving that car since I was a kid.
And if you went back and tried to buy a 993 or an NSX, price-wise, you're kind of competing still, right? Like,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
not so much on the Z3 front, but
yeah. Well, the M coupes. I mean, the clown shoe.
oh,
I
the
think.
MK. Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The clown shoe. Like that's what I was interested in, the coupe, not the
I
convertible.
see.
Yeah,
Got
yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
such, I love that car, man.
yeah.
That's such a
That's an
cool car.
ugly car, but I love the way it looks.
I don't, yeah, I love it. The rear view of that car is so sick. It's
The
so
rear
good.
three quarter, I 100% love how aggressive that looks.
Yeah.
Particularly the M Coupe wheels are just to me so cool. And yeah, no, and that car had some tricky handling because of the rear suspension setup on it.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually as stable as other E36s of its era.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a little
Huh.
bit more of a handful to drive, but not as much as a 911, but approaching a 911 versus say an M3. But
Mm,
yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. No, there's, look, I tell people this has been an unprecedented time for sports car enthusiasts like us. We've had an amazing selection of cars these last 25 years.
Sure.
At every price point, right? And if you're an enthusiast, you can find a car that for $10,000 you can go buy a used Miata and it's going to kick ass in the canyons and you're
Totally.
gonna have a ton of fun. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You
Yeah.
don't have to spend $100,000, $200,000. For particularly now these 911s are now 150 grand and up.
Crazy.
Okay, fine, but go pick up a 996 if you really got to have a 911, and you're going to have a wonderful experience, and you can get a really clean one for 25 grand.
Yep.
you know and that is a 911. It gives you the 911 experience, and it's so fun to drive. So yeah, we I don't know how, I don't think this party is going to last forever. I'm glad to see the EV requirements being kind of
Rolled back.
backpedaled.
Yeah.
But there's certainly some challenges, and I think that revolves around the fact that I think our market's just saturated. We have so many good cars that have been sold these last 25 years. How many more are you going to really sell, or how many more cars can one individual buy?
Yeah.
Other than just the really one percenters that are out there that can buy as many cars as they want.
Yeah.
Most of us, buy a couple fun cars, and then we're kind of out of garage space, and so then what do you do, right? And now with these cars becoming more computer controlled, they're less engaging, and so I'm not, frankly, all that terribly interested in modern cars because of that.
Yeah.
I like them, and I don't mind cruising around in them. In fact, I plan on buying, of all cars that people, one of my daughters can't even believe that I'm doing this, but I'm intent on buying a Z06 in a couple of years to use as a GT for travel.
Wow.
So it's going to be the car I'm going to travel throughout, the entire country with.
Wow.
I love road trips. I have so many wonderful memories of so many different road trips I've taken in my life.
Yeah.
And I think the Z06 is going to be the perfect car for that. It's got luggage space. It's comfortable. But what I love is that engine. It is such a moonshot, so freaking cool that an American car company would produce that engine. I love that fact. And
That's
I'm going to
great.
order one exactly the way I want. I'm going to go to Bowling Green. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to drive it across the country. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. But again, a tool for a particular job, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's fast as hell. I was looking at a ZR1 at Spring Mountain a couple weekends ago. What an unbelievable car for the money. It's unbelievable what they're achieving with that.
Wow.
So for me, the Z06, I'm not going to get the Z07 package. I don't need the wings and all that stuff.
Right. Right.
We have the more sedate one, but it's going to be, I'm going to use it as a GT car. And people are like, why? And I say, well, because it's comfortable, and there's Chevy dealers everywhere.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, to be continued for sure.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right,
Thank you,
Wes.
Shinoo.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, buddy. We'll chat soon.
Take care, man.
Thank you.
Bye bye.